I'm Tanya Iser. I'm an investigative reporter here at WFA. I'm joined by Mark Smith. We've been covering what we're calling the Onalaska trial. Deborah Mercer Irwin is on trial. She's accused of being involved in an alleged Ponzi scheme involving fake plane sales, and of course the genesis of our investigation, which is the charges that alleged she systematically put planes into the hands of drug smugglers. But yesterday we heard testimony for the first time about statements that she made to the authorities after her arrest. And Mark, what kind of struck you about those statements?
Well, I was struck by the fact that, according to the agent that testified about her proffer statement, she said that she was going to hopefully get a big payout from the Ponzi scheme, that she hoped to get a big payout from the mining operation that her co-conspirator, Fred Machado, had operated in Guatemala. And secondly, he said that she said that I'm in too far.
These are not recorded. These statements that she made to the authorities were not recorded, but her attorneys were present. So it wasn't like she was in there by herself, and these were given while she was still in the custody of law enforcement. And at that point, she had agreed to cooperate with law enforcement. Of course, she later on changed her mind and has gone to trial.
It was a real surprise because she has argued that she was conned by this guy out of Argentina who's a fugitive, Fred Machado. But in fact, she then told the agents that she really was aware of it since 2014 to 2020, and she hoped to profit from his mining operation where they were taking escrow funds on fake plane sales and investing it in this mining operation.
When Joe White, Deborah Mercer Irwin's attorney, questioned Special Agent Paul Mack about these statements, he questioned why they weren't recorded. He implied that the agent could have misstated what is in his notes, that basically the agent could misstate what Deborah Mercer Irwin said because these interviews were not recorded. I think they should record. That's just my general belief. I think it's the best thing to do. I don't have any reason to believe that Agent Mack misrepresented what was said, but I fundamentally disagree with the practice of not recording.
Yeah, it wasn't unusual though. That's kind of standard practice, I will say.
On a federal level.
On a federal level. Though the proffer statements weren't recorded, she had 2 attorneys in one occasion and 3 attorneys on another occasion present. Also in the room were 4 investigators and at least 2 prosecutors in one of the hearings. So there were a bunch of witnesses that could probably be questioned if there was really a challenge to that.
Well, Agent Mack testified that the scheme was that what she told the agents and the prosecutors was that they were going to do these fake plane sales in hopes of essentially striking it rich on this Guatemalan mine. And in the interim, until they struck it rich, she was going to get these, and she did get, according to earlier testimony, huge escrow fees, somewhere between $50,000 and $150,000, which are far and above the typical escrow fee of anywhere from $2,000, $4,000, $5,000, the max being, we've heard testimony of maybe $10,000 on a typical plane deal. So these escrow fees were far and above normal fees. Okay, so we've talked all about the Ponzi, but of course there's the part of this that we've covered for the last 4 years, which is the allegation about her company, Aircraft Guarantee Corp., registered planes on behalf of non-citizens, because in the United States, a non-citizen cannot register a plane, so they have to go through a trust company. It's a completely legal process, but the allegation has been that she did not exert due diligence and that planes ended up in the hands of narco traffickers, and then when planes were seized, she sought to distance herself from those planes. And so one of the agents walked us through step by step each of these planes and showing how they came to be in trust with AGC, when she sought to deregister them, all the emails. There was one plane that had been shot by the Venezuelan military, and then after the plane is shot down, then they're trying to deregister the plane. But her attorneys have contended that she did the best she could. There was no way she could have known the whereabouts of all these planes. And essentially they've argued that the government is trying to hold her accountable for what I guess I would say mistakes.
It's in the regulations, know your customer. Her defense is that there's a real limitation on that, on background checks. There's nothing in there that makes her quite as accountable as the government says.
Please follow us on WFA.com, and we'll be continuing to follow this trial.